Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to talk about early readers. Now, I have a previous video talking about early readers, so this kind of be like a part two. The first video I shared was very like early readers, and my youngest daughter, who's 6 in first grade, she's past those early like beginning readers. But this is our first time going through other types of readers because my oldest daughter, when she learned to read, she just took off really early and just went through like really simple books to complicated books. There was no in between. So now I've been trying to figure out books for my 6-year-old because she is definitely on a slower path to reading, which is completely fine. And I needed to have more books for her to read. And I tried things like the library, and I think the library is a great resource, but a lot of the leveled reading books, so like level 1, level 2, level 3, are either not really interesting to her, she just wants to look at the pictures, or it's words that we haven't really gone over. So we are currently using All About Reading level 2, and that's going really well. And the funny thing is, my oldest never made it to level 2. She did level 1, All About Reading level 1, and was fluently reading and went very soon after that to early chapter books. So this is our first time using level 2, and it's going really well. And to give you an idea of, what she's reading. So she just read this, and usually the stories in this reader, which tell you when to read and all about reading, she'll break it into 2 days. So she'll do like 5-6 pages a day, and then that. But that's the amount of reading she is doing. And now she can read these. She sounds most of her words out that aren't sight words at this point still. So I'm just working on that fluency, and that is really only going to come with practice. So like I said, watch out that video if you want some, first early reader suggestions, but this is what I came up with for her to kind of fill in that first grade, still learning to read, need to practice, because in All About Reading, there's many times where it tells you to read a story or book, and she's exhausted a lot of our resources at home already, so this is what I picked up. What I'm gonna do is turn you around so you can see the layout of the books I chose. So as you can see, these are the resources I picked out. I saw these shared on Homeschool Bel Air, and I will share that specific YouTube video down below. But she flips through, I believe, these in that video. So if you want a specific close-up look of these, she does a really good flip through and how she uses them in her homeschool. But these are meant for public school, the public school curriculum, and I think the negative part of homeschooling is that a lot of homeschoolers overlook public school curriculum, either written for curriculum or curriculum written for public school or used in public schools, because a lot of the time they have really good resources. And I think this is a great example of something that was created for public school that is still very applicable to homeschool and is a great resource. So these are 2 different levels, and I'll explain why I got 2. So they're both first grade, and they're pretty much reader books. You can buy like teacher guides and things to go with that. I did get the practice book to go with these, but I'm going to tell you why and show you why I got 2 first grade levels. So in my opinion, and why I ended up getting both of these, is the trophies is just a little easier than this. So let's go with the trophies first. So this would be grade 1, and it's broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So this would be unit 1. So we have the first theme, and again, you can get the teacher guide to go along with this if you want. So here's theme 1, I am your friend. So again, you're going to go over the words. So I really like when it has this kind of primer. All About Reading does this too, where it gives you practice sheets of the words before your child starts reading it. So this is a pretty simple story. So this is something my daughter could read by herself, The Hat. So as you can see, this is I like that they highlight these words that they're working on. This is a pretty easy thing that she can read. It's not overwhelming. I really like that it has questions at the end. I really like that it has an author biography that So this is who wrote the story. So that is nice. I like that it has extension activities if you want to go on beyond that. So it gives you different things you can do. So art, science. Has some questions where you can do some sequencing. I know a lot of people aren't fond of things like testing or Common Core or things like that, but this isn't a skill your child will eventually have to learn, how to answer a question, how to read a piece of information and be able to answer the questions accordingly. And I like that it's just a simple introduction to that. And then we go into the next story. So again, these are your words. This is what she would read. So this is the story in itself. Again, not overwhelming. And one thing I really like is the size of this. So for comparison, this is all about reading. My daughter really prefers to have the font larger. It is easier for her to read with the book being larger. She also likes to move around a lot when she reads. So having something larger like this is easier for her to just handle and squirm, but also the font is easier, so she's not, as you can see, there's a big difference between those two. So she actually really does like the larger font in this. So that would be the second story. And again, it's got these questions at the end, and then you meet the illustrator. So not just the author, but the illustrator of this book. So I like that it's not just reading a story, it's bringing in all these other elements. And of course, it will get harder as they go on. I like that it's a mixture of not just fiction, but there's poetry, there's nonfiction in here as well. So it's got these different little connections to it. It does have some phonics skill work. And so for example, this would be a nonfiction selection. And same thing, you meet the photographer in this one. These are your connections if you want to take it farther. So I really like that, and I did pick up the practice book that goes with it. Now, I'm not following along with the lessons that goes with this, just because we have all about reading. My daughter knows phonics pretty well. So one of the things she does first with her schoolwork is she does handwriting. For handwriting, I have her using core knowledge skills kindergarten level, which is very like explode the code type phonics work, which you can see this is kind of similar to that. So I wanted to mix it up, and again, I think this was $3 on Thriftbooks, and you get the entire things. So what I've been doing is just making copies, because I was like, oh, I could just buy another copy of this and not have to save it for my son, but I'm perpetually always saving something for the next kid. So I just made copies, and there were some in here that I knew she was past and didn't need to do. So this would be an example of some of the work she's done. So she's reading it, filling in the blank. So this is phonics work, but also handwriting work for her. So, and it's just got some different activities that change it up for her. She really enjoys, let's see if I can find it, this one. She kind of likes the puzzle type ones. So it just makes it a little different than the constant handwriting pages she's using in core knowledge. So I just print a couple units, and she'll choose between doing this or doing core knowledge, this skills portion for kindergarten. And a lot of times she's been choosing this just because it's a little bit more of a switch up. So I got the practice books for all 5 books. But I really like that. So this one is definitely an easier, as you can see, approach. The stories aren't super long. I mean, this is the end and it will pick up. But I think it makes a great practice reader for her. Now, why I picked up Journeys is because Journeys was a little bit ahead of that. So I'll show you the first story in this one. So very similar layout. You've got your different units or lessons. So the first unit would be around your neighborhood. Same thing, you can buy teacher guides, all those things. It's going to give you some words to know, so I really like this. Same thing, all about reading, goes over words before you start reading it, some background information, comprehension, and then you get into your story. Same thing, you get an author biography for every story, which I like, mixture of fiction and nonfiction. So you can see there's a difference in just the first story and what it's asking you to do. So this would be the first one in Trophies. This is the first one in Journeys. So this one is already starting off a little bit more information, but again, she's fully capable of doing this. And the same thing, it has those other connections. And then it has a mixture of, just like Trophies does, poetry, fiction, nonfiction. So sometimes it'll just be reading a couple poems. And I think it's good exposure, especially at that young age, to get different types of reading. A lot of early readers are very either like cartoonish or, like Paw Patrol or things like that. So you do get some grammar work in this one, which I really like, because we haven't gone through a lot of grammar. We are focusing on, reading, phonics skills right now, and handwriting, but I do like that it has an introduction to this, so I don't have to really seek out other types of grammar. And again, at first grade level, I want very just small tidbits every now and then, and I like that it's, tied into what they're reading. It has writing opportunities as well, which again, my daughter is still learning to read, so that is more of our focus. Handwriting, yes, but writing, composition isn't, but I like how simple this is. So she wrote her friend's name, she drew a picture of it, and then she labeled something that was in the picture. So very easy compositional work, but it's working those skills. So this would be lesson 2. Obviously, this is where we're at. So it's got the same thing, background, comprehension. These are things you read together. And then it has your story. So this would be the second story. Same thing, it's got the connections, act it out, talking about feelings, and then we go into a nonfiction. So you have different making connections here, a little bit of grammar, and then an option of writing. So again, I think these are really good resources, and this will definitely take us past first grade year. We are using these right now, and how I'm using it is once a week we just switch off. So if she's doing this one, what we've been doing so far is just a story a week, or when All About Reading tells us to read a story, we pick the story out of here. So this is where we are here. So she will read about kittens. We'll do some of this. And if she wants to do an art activity or an extension with that, that's completely fine. We'll talk about phonics skill here and a little bit of just test prep. And then we'll go into ants. So it's not anything complicated. So it would be reading this and maybe doing an extension activity, talking about some phonics skills. And I just have her obviously point to the answers here, and that would be it. So with the trophies, we can definitely fit more than one story in at a time, or if she just wants to read, I'll tell her to pick one of these up and we'll work through it. Now with the journeys, because again, I said it's a little bit more, this is usually, we'll do it together, and you can see, she'll still finish a story in one sitting, but it does take a little bit more time. And if, again, she wants to do the extension activities, we'll do that. So with this one, we can usually get through 2 stories a week, and when we do this one, it's usually just 1 story, and we'll add whatever activity she wants to do with that. It's very low prep. You don't have to have a bunch of stuff ready to, printed and ready to go. It's just pick it up and go with it. And to give you an idea of, so again, because this is Thriftbooks, there's different state ones. I just got what they had. So this would be the first unit, second, and this is all for first grade. So it's obviously going to get more intricate as they go. So I'll show you what it's going to look like towards the end, unit 6. So obviously a lot more words And I like that it has things like actual books in as the readers, because sure, I could get them from the library, I could buy them, but they're already here for me, set up. It's got the author biography, but you can see this would be a lot more reading for her, and this is where I would expect her to be once we work through all the levels. So same thing, it's got that connections, same thing, grammar. So you're working through all these skills continually. It's just as you go from book to book or unit to unit, it's going to get a little bit more complex or harder for your student to read, which I think is good. I mean, that's how we learn, is by moving on to the next thing after we've learned it. So this would be the second book of trophies, third, fourth, and fifth. So I'll give you an idea of where they end. So same layout. So this is where in trophies she would be ending. So this is the one that was a little bit more simpler starting out than journeys. So she's reading pretty much paragraphs at the end of this unit. So it's got some think, respond. It's got the author illustrator study, the making connections. So math, science, talking about story elements. And then we go to Frog and Toad. So again, I like that these books are included in here, and it's got activities and resources to already use, so I don't have to search those out myself. So I hope that gives you a better idea, and I think, like I said, bringing these elements in are just really good quality readers. They're age appropriate, they're at the level she needs, and they will build upon each other. Each level will be a little bit more she's learning, and they will span more than first grade. I can easily see us using these through her second grade year, but they're providing that resource I need of practice and being able to pull those other elements in. So it's just not just reading a book, which is, fine, but this might make it a little bit more interesting for her, and the size of the books is just much better for her. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you for watching.